unless there's a federal offense, the pardon's not valid. So I talked about the January 6 pardons. Now, by contrast, you had the illicit pardons, as I believe them to be, by President Biden, including a pardon during the last 15 minutes of his presidency of his family members. Let's bring that pardon up. That's a really outrageous one. Be it known that this day, I, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., President of the United States, pursuant to my powers under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the United States Constitution, hereby have granted unto James R. Biden, Sarah Jones Biden, Valerie Biden Owens, John T. Owens, Francis W. Biden, a full and unconditional pardon for any nonviolent offenses against the United States, which they may have committed or taken part of in during the period from January 1st, 2014 to the date of this pardon. He gave the same type of pardon to Fauci. Again, going back to 2014. Who else? Milley, who engaged in what looks to be treasonous activity by telling the Chinese, don't worry, if we're going to attack, I'll let you know. Should be court-martialed for that. And then, of course, you've got the January 6 related pardons, which are completely crazed. This pardon to, I don't know to who, to the members of Congress who served on the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. What attack? The staff of the Select Committee. Who's on the staff? Well, who? And the police officers from the D.C. Metro Police Department and the U.S. Capitol Police who testified before the Select Committee. So if they committed perjury, they can't be prosecuted? And who's on this list? We don't know. And that raises the question, are these pardons licit? Or are they illicit? Are they valid or are they not valid? And I posted a few tweets on this. We've been around the block on pardons before. I mean, we sued or litigated or tried to stop the Clinton pardons issued at the last minute. And here's a tweet I posted, or tweets. Well, this is this is a good comment. Joe Biden pardoned cop killers Liz Cheney and Adam Smith. He did. He pardoned, by the way, the other pardon he issued, or commutation, was for Leonard Peltier, who murdered 2 FBI agents, shooting one while he was laying unconscious in the head, and the other in the face as the guy went like this to stop him from being shot, stop himself from being shot. He released him from jail. Let's play the video. I forget what I said in the video here. So I tell you, if Biden preemptively pardons Milley in a way that I think is unlawful, they really should challenge it with a court-martial. And there's more reason to court-martial him. And Judicial Watch just filed a lawsuit. Yeah, so, let's go back up. So this is what I said about Pardongate. Donald Trump should ignore the preemptive blanket pardons just issued by whoever is running the Biden White House. Well, that's another question, right? Who is running the Biden White House or was running the Biden White House? Did President Biden have the mental capacity to sign off on these pardons? I don't think so. But that's one other issue. Specifically, President Trump should immediately court-martial Milley and proceed as appropriate in criminally investigating Fauci and anyone else on Biden's list. The blanket pardons issued by Biden are invalid and constitutional nullities and should be considered to have no legal force or effect. And I followed up with the following tweet. One can't issue a pardon without listing the offense. A pardon for nothing is a pardon for nothing, right? It's kind of axiomatic. The Biden blanket pardons are empty sets, legal nullities that are unenforceable. Do you remember empty sets from school? I do. I was asking my colleagues who are a little bit younger than me. They don't know that. They don't know about empty sets, or they weren't taught that. But remember the empty sets? Remember the brackets and in math, and we had the empty set, the null set as it was sometimes called. And that's, to me, is what these pardons are. So there are no offenses listed. So how are they enforceable? And in the case of those January 6th pardons, they don't even list names. So is President Trump supposed to go and figure out who the pardons apply to? No. He should tell the pardon attorney and the Justice Department to stop processing them immediately and presume them to be invalid. And the question is, how is it tested? You test it by prosecuting or criminally investigating the areas in which these people might be defendants. I mean, I don't say, oh, well, now Biden, my view isn't you say, well, okay, we're going to prosecute Fauci and start investigating because his name is Fauci. No, you investigate issues that Fauci might be involved in, not because he might be involved in, but because there generally could be crimes, meaning the fraud involved in this funding of gain-of-function research contrary to policy and federal grant guidelines, potential perjury by Fauci and others. Let them raise it as a defense. And then you argue that this is not a valid pardon because there's no offense listed. Essentially, Biden was relying on Trump to effect the pardon. And Trump doesn't have to do that under precedent. And with Milley, proceed with a court-martial, as I said in the video. Test it that way. And with Milley specifically, there could be punishments for his misconduct short of a criminal offense that can be pursued by Pete Hegseth, assuming he's confirmed as Secretary of Defense. Joe Biden, as President Trump noted, wasn't pardoned. Investigate Biden's crime family and Joe Biden's involvement in that. The immunity ruling by the Supreme Court doesn't protect Joe Biden from prosecution for private behavior. The same goes for Hunter. He had a similarly broad blanket pardon. Those are not valid. And I looked at a Supreme Court decision on the scope of the pardon power, and it was interesting because the language here, and you can find it, you'll see what I mean. I think I'm fairly describing it, but I warn you, you should go look at it to make sure I'm right in my description here. But it talks about how the pardon really allows the prosecution of someone up into conviction, but the pardon erases the possibility of any sentence. Now, if that's what the court ruled, and I'm accurately describing it, that would be an interesting process too, even for these individuals. But let's say the pardons are valid, right? We can fairly interpret them as confirming, if accepted by these individuals, which they have been, largely as best I can tell, as confirmation of illicit or criminal conduct by everyone who got the pardons. So President Biden has confirmed the January 6th committee was a criminal enterprise. Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Benny Thompson, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, all those on the January 6th committee. There are probably other names I'm missing. Was Jamie Raskin on the committee too? I think so. They were engaged in a criminal enterprise that should be prosecuted. That's what this pardon says. Fauci is essentially confirmed as a criminal, one might argue. Oh, that's Milley. Same goes for Milley, Fauci, etc. The Biden family itself. As I said, unless there's a federal offense, the pardon's not valid. To the degree it has any validity, there has to be a crime at issue that could be prosecuted. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say this is a valid pardon while pretending there's no crime at issue. And if there are crimes at issue, there are, assuming that it's valid and prevents them from doing what I suggest should be doing, serious criminal investigations, and Trump should ignore the pardons. But let's say they don't agree with my aggressive interpretation here, right? My advocacy. What they should do then is see what other punishments can be meted out. As I highlighted for Milley, Schiff, should he be thrown out of the Senate? Raskin, should he be thrown out of Congress? Out of the House? Fauci, should he be denied his pension through administrative investigations and proceedings? I don't know. But we need full justice and full accountability. And these pardons should be no bar to getting them. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not especially brilliant. And my point is, what I'm talking about, there are lots of smart people in Washington, D.C., presumably also in the Trump administration, who know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of what possibly could be done short of criminal investigations or prosecutions of these people. My point is, if I can think of it, there are a lot smarter people out there who have a much better understanding of personnel issues and regulatory, administrative law and punishment and crime and such. They can get some accountability done. Because the American people want it. Trump was elected to get accountability. And I'm sure he wants it. That's why I think he slyly mentioned that Joe Biden wasn't pardoned, because the elephant in the room that was left unsaid was that he should be criminally investigated. As he said at the beginning of his speech, they tried to jail and kill me. And I hope that that's on the forefront of his mind when he directs investigations and criminal investigations and requests them, as he should. I think he should get personally involved in directing these investigations, as I've been saying, appointing special prosecutors or asking and directing agency heads to investigate, as he has begun to do with the executive orders. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.